Hi friends, welcome to WebChamp. In this video, I'm going to talk about various array iteration methods in JavaScript. So in my previous video, I have discussed what is an array, what are the different methods, or how array indexes works. But in a JavaScript, we have few built-in methods we can use directly to iterate over the array to perform some kind of operation over the array. After that, in one of my previous video, I have discussed functions, and in the function I discussed function declaration, what is mean by function expression, what is difference between declaration and anonymous function, then function constructor, arrow function, and callback function. Everything I have discussed in my previous video. So in this video, we are going to use callback function for each and every method. So let's start with our content. So let's say I have an array with these values, and I have to perform some kind of operation on each of the array element. So yes, obviously I can do using for loop by using index that we know. So simply if I use for loop, yes, I can use. So I will say let I is equal to 0. I will initialize one variable. I will say I is less than, okay, and array dot length. Then I will increase. So this is what the simple for loop, normal for loop. And here I can do, or I can say document.write. And what I need to do, I need to use array name. I have to pass the indexes that are stored inside a I variable, and I will pass the break here. So this will, what it will do, it will give me some kind of output, or it will print all the array items on my screen. So if I wanted to perform operation, yes, I can do. I will say into 2, so it will multiply each value by 2. So this is how a loop works. But instead of doing this, JavaScript has some built-in methods. It's not one or two. We have almost 14 methods to perform or to work with array, or to work with each of array item. So let's see one by one all those methods how we can use. You can do same thing by using forEach method, but whenever you have to call the method, you need to use the variable name called array, whatever would be the name of variable, and then you have to say forEach. So you see here, you can see it accepts one parameter, right? Means this function is asking for to pass the argument. So what we can do, we can create either external function, and then we can pass the name as a as a argument to this for each method of array, and that is what we call as a callback function. So instead of using this, what I will do, I will remove this. We will get the same output by using this method. But what you need to do, you need to use, or you need to create a function called demo, or yes, that is fine. Okay, function name can be anything, it depends upon you. But if you look at the syntax, what it is asking a callback function. So it is asking you for the function name, which is to be called when we call for each method. So, and that function should take value, index, and array. These are the three parameters. So what you need to do, you need to pass the value. So these are the, like a variable, you can use anything instead of using value, index, and array. Any variable name would be accepted here. So you can use ABCD also, that will not be a proper, but first argument will be used for value, second argument will be used for index of whatever the array you are going to use. So here what I will do, I will build some kind of logic to print the values, and I will say documents.write. Inside this, I will use the values. I don't want to use the index Now, yes, this is fine. And this is how a function can be defined in JavaScript. You have to terminate your JavaScript statement. Okay, done. So now you can use this demo function as a callback function. Whenever you have to use the function as a callback function, you simply need to pass the name of that function. You do not need to worry about its parameter or its parenthesis. You do not need to call the function like this here. That will not works. Okay, so you can simply pass the function name as a callback function. Now internally this will call demo function and you will see the output on screen. Okay, so this is what we call it as a callback function. So here demo is a callback function, but instead of using this callback function, I can use arrow function also, right? The function without name and the function only have one expression. So I will pass value here, yes, and what I will do, I will say index comma next is you can pass array here, but we are not going to use index and array, so we can omit that also, and we can only pass value here, and we can use this value. But where to use, you have to remember, whenever you use arrow function, you must have only one statement in your function. So I will pass value here. I can perform operation. I will multiply it. And let's say I will add break here. So now I don't need to declare this function also. And this function, this arrow function will work as a callback function for this for each method. And you will get the same output. Okay, so here you have a values which are multiplied by 2. If you want to multiply by 10 for 450, first value you will see 450. So this is how it works. So for each method is basically used whenever you have to perform some kind of operation, some kind of functions on each of array item. For each method never returns new array. Only it performs the operation, whatever the functionality you have or whatever the logic you have applied inside a function. Very similar to for each method, there is a next method called map method. It is also same, and here I am going to use map method. Okay, you can read here what it says, but syntax is very similar. I can yes, I can pass, or I can write a similar function. I am not going to use or declare any more external function. You have to use only document.write. You have to use only arrow function. So it is a good practice to use this shorter syntax whenever you have to go for a advanced JavaScript libraries called AngularJS, React.js. So it is better, or it is good to know this kind of functionality. Otherwise, difficult to manage, or you will have to write more number of lines of codes unnecessarily. And here I can use same logic. Okay, and we can see, okay, this is what something I will comment out. So we are seeing only output of this method. So what I will do, instead of this, I will say divided by 5. So it will return me values accordingly. Okay, so this is how it works. It is a very similar. It looks like for each method and map method, there is nothing is different in these two methods. Yes, you will see the difference is that for each method does not return new array, but map method returns a new array with whatever the operation we have performed on the array item. That is the only difference. And there is one more difference. I will talk on that. But first, I would like to discuss the next method. Later on, I can show you what is the difference between forEach and map method. So next method is called filter method. Filter method, it works like a filter, okay? And you have to pass a predicate again. This is kind of a function. It is very similar, means value, index, number, everything is same. Okay, whenever you have to work with function also, I mean filter method also. So here what I will do, I will prefer the value, since I have only one argument, I do not need to use this bracket also. So I can directly write, and here I will say documents dot write, and what I'm going to write. Okay, this method works like a filter, means it works, you have to pass the condition to show the output. So what I will do, I will say if value is greater than 100, okay, only that value will be shown, otherwise other values will not be printed. So this is what something we are passing, and this is possible because of this filter method. Everything is designed internally, you do not need to worry about it. What I will do, I will comment out so that we can see only output of filter method. And if I refresh this, it returns false, 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 false. Okay. So what it is doing, it is returning a false for each of the item which is not greater than 100. Let's say if you want to print the values, okay, if you want to print the values. So as I said, see, it is very similar, map method and filter method, both the methods are going to return new array. So this will return, right? This filter method will return a array. I will say I will store that array somewhere in variable called x is equal to. And what this method will do now, this method, okay, this method will return array and store the array inside a variable x. And I can write that on document using documents dot write method. And if I say x, so you will see the values which are okay. Why this is not writing? Or did I not call the method? Something went wrong. It is very good to know, but yes, we are array filter, and obviously we are going to use this, but I should not use this one also, right? Maybe yes. So here you can see the values stored as an array inside a x variable which are greater than 100 only. So this is how filter method. So filter method will filter the value based on past condition, and it returns a new array which pass the condition. Okay. So what is the difference between forEach and map method. Now we can see that. So forEach method cannot be used. Chaining method as a chaining method, map method can be used as a chaining method. So what I can do, I will keep this filter out. Okay, or let's remember this. Let's comment out this code and I will write new code for each method. So let's say array for each. Inside of for each, what I will do, I will use the logic. I can use the value, right? Yes. So what I will do, I will use a function called value, and this function, this is what for each method, since for each method is not going to return, right? Map and for each, these are the methods of array, and for each method is not going to return the array. We cannot use another methods on for each returned values. So if I say values, and if I use the value here, value, okay, dot, if I say filter, so this method will not work. So filter will accept the value, and which is again we are going to use. So nothing, what we are doing is we are trying to use the function chaining. Okay, so function on another function. So whatever the for each method will return, instead what I will do, okay, so that you will not get confused, I will write like this, and value dot to. So if I perform any of the operation, right, and I will store that value, let's x is equal to 2. Sorry, let x is equal to array dot for each. And if I refresh, we will not see any output. But if I try to print, document dot write this variable x on variable x on screen, so you are seeing the output as undefined because this method is not going to return anything. But instead, if I use the map, you will see output on screen. So that is the difference between these two methods. One more difference is that map method cannot be, sorry, for each method cannot be used in chaining, but map method can be used. So if I use for each method, and since this method is not going to return anything, we can't perform or we can't apply filter here. Okay, next method, we cannot apply filter on this, but we can use the filter on map and other methods too, those methods which are going to return the new array. Okay, so this will return here only. You can see that this for each method will return undefined. So we cannot perform any operation on undefined. So we cannot apply any next method. So if I say filter, yes, I can write like this, right? Because x is, as I am expecting x is an array, and I can use the filter here. So what I will do, I will pass this and return me, I will write values are greater than 100. Okay, but this will not work. So here output, you will see that nothing is a greater than 100. But if I use map method, chaining is allowed, and chaining I will show you how it works. So here you can see that values which are greater than 100. If I say greater than 500, so you will only see, I think, 1 or 2 values. So these are the values greater than 500. So this is how it works. So instead of writing on new line, what I can do, I can use this filter function on this map, right? So here only I applied 2 functions. First will, what it will do, first map will return the new array with values multiplied by 2, and on next instance what it will do, it will filter the value and store the new array inside a variable x, and here you will see the output. Same output you are getting. If I say it is greater than 100, you will see, sorry, greater than 1000, you will see the output as a value. If I say 999 or 900, so it depends upon the values, whatever the values, or what function, for what purpose you are using. So you can build any logic here inside with value, and accordingly it will perform the value. But filter method will always accept the condition. It will return the values based on some condition. If the condition is not true, it will not return values. So next is reduce method. It is again very similar. It accepts some parameters, value, index, and array as we were passing earlier, but instead it accepts one more additional parameter. So how it works, let's see. So now I will not use this. Okay, so what I will do, I will try to reduce the value. So what I will do, I will call the array reduce method. Inside a reduce method, you can pass the previous value number, current value number. In the current index is the number written is a data type. Okay, and whenever you have to call this method, you have to pass the array with number if you want to pass. Otherwise, you can omit. So what I will do, I will pass two values or two arguments. I will say total, and I will say value. Okay, I can pass index also. I can pass array also, but it is not required. And since we passed these many arguments, so what you need to do now? So you have to build your logic. Okay, so what we can do, since we have many numbers of arguments, we have to use this bracket whenever you have argument more than one. If you have only one argument, you do not need to use the bracket, you can directly write the function. So it returns, okay, since we are using return arrow function, we don't need to write return keyword. If we do not use arrow function, then we have to use return keyword. So what I will do, it returns total plus value. So this function is going to reduce my array into a single value. And what it will do, it will give me the sum of complete array. Okay, and this is what stored inside this total. Okay, now what I can do, this function is going to return me the sum. So I need to store that sum. Let's say sum is equal to, okay, I'm going to store the output inside this sum variable, and then I will say document dot write sum. And whatever the value returned by this function will be stored inside sum, and we are going to pass that value to the HTML documents. And here you can see the total sum of this array. So if you want to pass the initial value, yes, you can pass initial value also. Then how to pass initial value? So instead of total, not instead of total, what we can do is, so let's see the syntax. number plus 2 overloads. So there is something called, there might be something called initial value. Okay. Yes, there is a parameter called initial value. So you have to use this parameter. And what I will do, I will say comma initial value is equal to, what I will do, I will say initial value as 100. So it will add initial value to this. So this will become 30. Okay, 3054. But when, because we have not added initial value here. So if I add initial value, you will see the output here. Okay, every time it is going to add. That's why. So what is happening actually? So for each item, it is going to add initial value. That's why. So every time means this 100 become 200, 45 become 145, 200 become 300, 50 become 150, 67 become 167 because of this initial value. That's why the value is increased in this range. Okay, so what I can do, I won't be able to use initial value outside of value. Okay, no problem. So this is how we can pass the initial value if you want to perform some kind of operation. Yes. So if you want to add only values, you can add here also inside a sum or after returning this value. So next method is, so this is how array reduce method is simply used to reduce the value whenever you have to multiply each of array item. Instead of this, you can use multiplier and accordingly you will get the value. The value is much big. It is goes to, I mean, somewhere around 28 plus those many decimals. So I don't want to explore that value. That value is not fit inside a JavaScript variable, big int even also. We need to use big int. So next is reduce right. Okay. So by default, reduce method works from left to right. So this is left to right. And if you go by in the reverse order, we will call it as a reduce right method. So we have seen reduce methods. It is very similar to reduce method. Okay, nothing will be different. Only difference is that this method will start working from this order, reverse order. And you will see the same output. Okay, instead of this, what I will do, I will add the value. It is better to use some value. So reduce and reduce right method is used to reduce the array into a single value, to produce a single value output based on some kind of operation. Both the methods are not going to change original array. Instead of the changing the original array, it returns a new value. Then we have a next method called every method. So every method checks, it is like a filter method. It works like a filter method. Okay, it checks if all array values passes a test. Again, it takes three parameters: value, index, and array itself. So if I comment out this, okay, next method is called every. So I will say dot every. So here you can see the syntax, it accepts the predicate, okay, and that accept the value, index, and array. Now I'm going to use arrow function. So here I will say if 100 is greater than, sorry, each value, if the value is greater than 500 or not. So after performing a operation, so it is just checking each value, for every value it will check, and if it is true for all the value, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. So ultimately we are going to see the output as a false. So I can write the output directly on the HTML page, and here you can see the output as a false, because okay, this method is not going to indicate, then this method is yes, obviously this method is going to return something, then why this is not returning me? Document dot write, yes, okay. So what I will do, I instead of this, I will store the result inside any of the variable. Let's say let x is equal to, yes, we can do that also. And if I pass x, yes, this is also very similar. I'm not getting the output, why? Console uncatched reference document, okay, my bad, spelling mistake, that's why we won't be able to see the, is not a function. Okay, so I have to use this document instead. I use, so here you can see the output as a false. So it says that all the items from the array are not greater than 500. So it will return only one value. It will not check for, I mean, it will check for each of the value, but it returns true or false as a single Boolean value. That is what the purpose of every method. And if I say 10, so obviously I can see here all the values are greater than 10. So you will see the output as a true. So this is how it works. Every method works. It is very similar to the filter method, but the output is different. So now we have next method called sum method. Again, it is same. Okay, it is used to test. Instead of every, we can check sum. So every was checking for all items, and if it pass the value, or if it pass the test, based on that test, it was returning either false or true. But some method, what some method will do, it works exactly opposite. Okay, if it found few values, passes the condition, it will return the true, right? If none of the value is going to pass the test, then it will return the false. So here, using some method and every method is very, very similar. The difference is that only every method checks for all values, some method will check for partially values. If it found any of the one value, then it will return true. Okay, any of the one value which is going to pass the test, then it will return true. Next method is IndexOf method. So what it will do, this method will search for the index, okay, specific index, and then it will return the position of index. So position means at what position. So what we can do, what method we are going to see is just index method. So what I will do, I will comment out this and we will see the next method. So now I will start from here, so that array dot index of, and here this method will ask for the values. Okay, so it is asking for the numbers, and this method is going to return me whether that index is exist or not. So if it returns, okay, I will show you. If I say documents dot write, and inside this, if I pass array dot index of 100, so if index, if that parameter or whatever the value we passed as an argument to the index of method that is exist inside the array, it will return the index of that array, and we know that it is exist at first. But if I want the position, what I will do, I can add one also. So what it will do, it will say that it is at second position, because index is always less than length, right? This is how it works. What will happen if it does not match, any of the value does not match? So here you can see that it will return 0. 0 is nothing but the item is not exist, or by default actually it returns -1 whenever the item is not exist, or it unable to find the specified value inside the array. But since we were adding value as a 1, so 0 means, sorry, we were adding 1, so if it returns 0, that means the item is not exist. This is how index of method works. The method which is going to return the index of specified value in a array on which it calls. Next method is what we are going to see is index of, then array last index of. Let's say you have 100 toys, okay, in your array, and you need to, or you want a last index of array, last index of 100, okay, not an array. So if I say 100 and then last index of, and here if you pass 100, this will return documents dot write, this will return me a last index of. So what it will do, it will not search for the first, it will search for all the items, and whenever it founds 100 at last position, it will return that index or that position. It depends upon what we or what you are expecting. Okay, so this is what the index. By default, it returns index. If you want the position, you have to add 1 inside the return value. So it says that last 100 is exist at 13th position in your array. Next method is find method, FindIndex method. Again, these two are very similar. Okay, so instead of this, what I will do, I will say find. And you can see the syntax here inside of find. What you need to do, you need to pass the number type data, and you need to pass 100 value and all, everything. You have to mention whatever the requirement it has. So find method, if I say here, you can see the syntax that it accepts, or you have to pass the anonymous function, arrow function, and value is exist or not, it will return. How it works, I will show you. So what we are going to do is we are going to pass value here. Yes, that is fine. I don't want to look for the index, so I will use the only value. And here I will say value. So you will see the output, it is very similar. Okay, it returns the only one value first. But if I want the value which is greater than 100, it will return the first match. Okay, if it found the value 100 here, it will return the next value. If I say value is greater than 45, so what it will do, it will find the 45 and next value will be returned. So in case if the next value is less than, you can see the output on the screen that what it will do, it will give me the next value which is higher than 45. So this is how find method works. Okay, find method will help you to find the value based on condition. FindIndex method returns the index of first array element that passes the test function. Test function means this is what the function we pass, anonymous function or arrow function or callback function we can call. So whatever the function type of function you have passed, it depends. But FindIndex method returns index. Okay, index. So instead of passing that, if I use FindIndex, so here we were seen that 200 is returned. 200 is placed at 0, 1, 2, second position or at a second index. So that's why you are getting value as 2. So find method will return the value based on the whatever the filter condition we have applied. FindIndex method will return index only. Next method we have is from. So what you need to do whenever you have to use from method. From method is basically used to create an array. Create a array from past iterable value, iterator values. Okay, iterable values. Okay, so what I will do, let's say I have a variable called let name is equal to Brahma. Okay, and what I will do, I have to use the, or I have to convert this name into the array or this string or this text into the array. So what I can do, I can use the for method. So what I will do, I will say the from method is called on array. Okay, if you don't have an array, you have to create an array. So what you can do, you can call it from using array. So this is what array, it's very similar to, okay, we are directly calling the method by using array constructor. So you have to write array only, array dot from, and here in the from you can see that any iterable is nothing but any or any type of data on which we can pass. What we can pass? Sorry, we can use the loop. Iterable is nothing but any type of data on which we can use the loop or which are indexed. Okay, or we can apply for loop, while loop based on some kind of loop. So iterable is names. So string is iterable because names, I will use names because name is restricted to use. Yes, we can use, but it is showing deprecated. Okay, that's why it shows over line over the text. So if I say names, so now this is going to return me a new array. Okay, and I have to print that array on the screen. So I will say documents dot write, and this method will return me new array. If I refresh, okay, this method is not going to return array y. Yes, it is going to return the array, but we cannot write directly. Instead, what I need to do, I need to store new array, and yes, inside a new one of the variable, and then I can pass new array. Then on next moment we can refresh to see the output, what is going wrong with this. So something, yes, my bad, again spelling mistake, that's why we won't be able to see the output. Yes, so each of the letter is treated as a array item. So this is how is this is used. Okay, if you have a data type or variable type called set, variable type called map, we can use this from method also to create an array from any type of iterable values or iterable variables. The next method is keys, entries, and include. So keys, entries, and include, these methods are used with a dictionary. Whenever you have a data in the key and value pair, in that case these methods will return. But if you use, okay, if you use this keys method on array, okay, I don't like to use on the variable called name. So it was just created for to understand the from. So what I will do, I will say array dot keys, and here I don't need to use anything, I don't need to pass, but what it will do, it will return something that I will store inside a variable called x, and inside this I will print x. So keys for array, key is nothing but a index, so it will return me, okay, object array iterator. And now you have received a iterable object. This method, keys method, will return iterable. So here you can see that iterable iterator, it will return, and you have to iterate through each of the items. So you can use for constant, or let's say x, let x is already used, let I of for of method I am going to use. Okay, so how we can use, and I will say x, and here inside this what I can do, I can say documents dot write, and I will pass value. So this array dot keys method is going to return, what it is going to return, it is going to return me one iterable object called, which is of indexes. Okay, and I wanted to see the value of that array, so I can do that by using a loop, and here you can see the value. We have 14 index, means 15 items in our array. So this is how it works, keys value. Okay, next, sorry, keys method. Next is entries. Entries is nothing but used for the values. Okay, if I say entries, again this method is going to return the iterable object, so we need to use this, but this time it will return the values. Okay, so instead of this we can use, okay, this is what entries is returning. What it returning, a pair of index and value. So what it says, at 0th index we have 45, at 1 index we have 110, at second index, so it is returning a pair of index and its corresponding value. So we can say that 0th position, 1 index. So this is how a method, these methods we can use. Last method is include method. So include method is simply used to check any specific value is exist in the array or not. So this kind of methods we have already seen, but still, let's say let x is equal to, what I will do, I will use an include methods is going to again return something that in the Boolean expression. Here you can see that return type is Boolean. So if I pass number here 100, so it will return me as a true or false. Okay, I have not printed that value. I will say documents dot write, and I will pass x. And if I refresh here, you will see the output. It means include method returns true if that passed value is exist in your array. Let's say I don't have 1,000 in my array, so if I pass 1,000, you will see the output as a false. So this is how all the methods, here you can see that these methods are used on array items to do some kind of, to perform some kind of operations on array. So in this video, we have seen these all 14 methods. And we will see these methods again with next data structure called data set and map in a JavaScript. So thank you for watching the video. Have a nice day.